What's up, guys? Stefan here, S&E's Garage. In our last video on the 15F rebuild, you'll see that we got this engine here completely freshened up. We are just waiting on one or two little things. Like I mentioned, we're waiting on a little vacuum plug for that nipple, and then the oil hoses on the back. But other than that, this is ready to go in. We went ahead and installed our brand new Wix oil filter on there. We have our 4 quarts of our liquid moly PWC oil. And we have everything ready. We went ahead, completely cleaned up and freshened up our exhaust manifold and the tailpipe. You'll see we had it welded here and down at the bottom. Those were the 2 spots that it was a little bit weak. So to err on the side of safety, we did have them welded. We went ahead, cleaned up our intake manifold, completely repainted it, repainted our fuel rail, replaced all the fuel injector O-rings and seals. And we are waiting on one O-ring for the idle air control valve on the intake manifold, and then we are completely ready to drop the engine in. You'll see here we have our rebuilt jet pump. We did a video on that. And then we have the ride plate, the oil separator. All of our parts are ready to go. So this is going to be the video where we go ahead and get the engine in the ski. So what I'm probably going to do in the next couple of days, I'm going to get the water box into the jet ski. It's easier to put the water box in when there's no engine in it because you can put it in through the opening where the engine is. It's a lot easier. So we're going to do that. And then I do have to install my 12F ECU into the ski, because the 15F ECU, even though it will run the 12F engine, it will run too much timing advance, because the 12F is actually, it has a higher compression ratio. It's a higher compression engine. And it can actually cause damage to the pistons and the ring lands, and we don't want to do that. So we're gonna run the right ECU for it. We're gonna run the correct 12F manifold, and we're gonna get this thing together, and hopefully we get it running. I'll probably only run it for maybe 10-15 seconds just to make sure it runs, because I do not want to put water through it, because then I have to winterize it. Right now, everything's empty. There's no water in the, in the engine or any of the exhaust parts, and I want to keep it that way until after winter. So we're probably just going to put the hoses in, dump oil in it, hook the fuel up, put a battery in it, and then bump the starter, make sure it fires off. And as long as it fires off, it's going to sit until springtime. So next time I pick up the camera, we're going to be getting this engine in the ski. Alright guys, so we got the little guy here and myself, and in anticipation for some of the parts we're going to receive this week, we went ahead and installed our water box. You'll see it here. We connected it to the exhaust tailpipe over here. We ran one hose here, this one on the side comes back, goes out the back of the ski. It's that center one there. This guy here on the bottom comes out to this side and connects to the crossover tube on the engine. And then this tube here comes out on this side and connects right underneath the intake manifold to the, the exhaust manifold to the, basically the engine block. So we got that all set, and now, really, this ski is ready to receive an engine. Everything here is good to go. Now, because we are putting a 12F engine in here, we did go ahead and swap over to the 12F ECU. You'll see here we have a 12F ECU, and it plugs right into the 15F harness. So this is actually a very easy swap. Here you'll see my old 15F ECU. I have 2 spare 15F ECUs now for this jet ski, so I have parts for days for this one. But hopefully the next time I pick up my camera, we're dropping this engine in. What's up, guys? So today's the day. We're getting this jet ski ready to receive its engine transplant. We got everything in the ski situated. Everything's moved. We got, like I showed you, the exhaust is in. Everything here is out of the way. We got our 12F ECU in. And let's go take a walk over to the front of the garage real quick. We got the engine outside. Father-in-law is going to come by with the tractor. We're going to set you up on the tripod, and we're going to drop this engine in. So I'm waiting on one bypass plug for the crankcase breather on this engine, because this engine is set up a little bit differently, being that it's an older 12F. So there's a whole, basically it's like a crankcase vent assembly that sits right here that we have deleted. You'll see we capped the one line off here, and I'm waiting on a cap for this line. I just stuck a hose on it to keep the oil from spilling out when we lift this thing up, because I did fill this up with oil. I didn't want to leave it sitting without oil in it. Don't want anything to rust up or seize up on me. So this engine is 100% ready to go in. You'll see we got it all situated. We added our new lines down here from the oil pan. Got our new oil pan in, valve cover as you saw. So we're just going to set you up on the tripod. We're going to drop it in, and we're going to start making some connections. I'm not going to put the exhaust manifold on yet, because I do need, like I said, to cap that line off. So I can get the intake on, I can get all the hoses on the intake side routed, and I can start routing the hoses here on the exhaust side. Like I said, I just can't put the exhaust on, and we can get the jet pump in, and we can really start making some headway on this thing. So let's go get the tractor and drop it in.
I gotta like twist it to get the motor mounts to go in.
You gotta kick it. Alright, well look, I don't want to drop it quick. Move it. Is that a sensor on the front? The wire?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm watching it. Hang on. What I can really do now...
Yeah, you gotta straighten it out or something. What you gotta do? Go up? You gotta go forward with it. While I go down.
No, I gotta lift the back up a little bit now to level it out.
Motor mount's clear in the front. You got an oil filter on this side, you gotta swing it the other way. Still gotta go.
Hang on. Alright, lower it in.
What's this hose on this side?
That's fine. Hang on. Alright, lower it. Keep coming.
Yeah, you want me to go toward you a little bit?
No, just keep lowering it. Hang on.
You gotta pick the back up a little?
No, just lower it. Alright, we're in.
Alright guys, so here's where we're at. The engine is in, it is routed. Like I said, we have this spare hose here. That's just keeping oil from leaking out of that. So really I could pull that off now, but I'm going to wait until I get my port, my block off cap. But you'll see we went ahead and we slid our coupler in. That took a little bit of finesse back here at the shaft. After we bolted the motor down, we just slid that in. That's good. We have all of our hoses routed here that you'll see. This top hose here on the water box goes to the back of the machine. This lower hose on this T goes into the side of the cylinder block. You have your top hose here on the power takeoff. This is going to go to the exhaust, so we have that sitting over here. We have our other two ports down there that go to the exhaust. This one here comes off of the top of the oil cooler. This one below, I believe, goes up to the flush port under the front of the machine. And we have everything else pretty much routed. We have the one on the lower power takeoff, comes right over here, off to the left side on the back of the ski. And I'm going to try to go ahead and get my intake manifold in. After I connect my starter lead, you'll see we have a positive just threaded on. Here's our negative. We're going to thread that on. And I also went ahead and plugged in my oil pressure sender, so that's plugged in. And once I get everything plugged in and situated under here, we're gonna go ahead and take care of the intake. Alright guys, we got our intake manifold in and torqued down. You'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We got all 7 bolts in. Because the 12F manifold is a bit more cumbersome than the 15F manifold, it was a little bit trickier to get this one in. I did have to unbolt my motor mounts that I just got done bolting in, and I put a ratchet strap on this hook and a ratchet strap on that hook, and then I ratchet strapped it to the trailer here on either side. You'll see the ratchet straps here still, and I tilted the whole engine to the port side of the machine, so the left side, and that gave me enough clearance to slide that manifold in and get it on. So that's going to be it for today. Like I said, we're waiting on one vacuum plug, bypass plug, to plug that port off there, and this thing's going to be ready to go in. At that point, we'll connect our wire harness. I do have one fuel injector lead that I have to repair. There was a previous repair on it that was actually done pretty poorly, so I'm going to cut it off right here, and I have a new connector that I'm going to put in place. But other than that, this thing is, ready to run. I have the exhaust ready to go in once we put that plug in. So we'll be with you as soon as we get the plug. Alright, so we decided to very quickly go ahead and attach our throttle cable. So what I did is I went over to our other jet ski and I looked at exactly how the cable is ran, and that is how I routed it. And then we just went ahead and set the adjustment. Now when you're adjusting this cable, you want to make sure that when the throttle closes, it hits that stopper. You don't want this held open at all, so it rests open. I mean, it rests on the stopper, and then when you throttle it, it goes wide open. So we are happy with that adjustment. We are going to go ahead and tighten our adjustment nuts down. We also went ahead and put our power takeoff shield back on. In order to put that shield back on, you're going to want to make sure that the hose clamp for your power takeoff is positioned in this way, because there wasn't enough room for the shield here with the screw of the clamp on this side. So I did move that over and readjust that. And now, again, holding pattern because of the exhaust, because of the vacuum plug, because in order for me to put any of this other stuff back in, the air box, the exhaust manifold, and the oil catch can or water vapor separator, whatever the hell that thing is, the exhaust needs to be in, because they will be in the way of putting the exhaust in. So again, holding pattern. We'll see you when we see you. Alright guys, so we got the jet ski in the garage. We're going to do a couple of things today. We already went ahead and got our jet pump in. It's these 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll see the steering nozzle, everything is in. Our reverse bucket connector, clamp, whatever you want to call it, is here. Here's our steering cable. And we went ahead and connected our bilge drain here to the output of the pump. All I have to do is take these worm gear clamps here and slide them down up over here. This is going to be your water inlets from the pump into the cooling system. So we'll have a hose here and a hose there. So I'm just going to slide them down, put them clamps on. I'm going to connect my steering cable, and then we're going to go ahead and get the ride plate over there and bolt that up. You'll see I used a little bit of grease on the basically where the pump connects to the hull, just to keep water and shit from getting in there. So that's in. And like I said, we're just going to go ahead, tighten those clamps, and move on to the ride plate. Alright, so we got all of our hoses secured. We got our steering cable connected to the nozzle. It moves. Right now there's a cover on the handlebars, so we can't really move it, but trust me, it moves. So now we're going to go over there. We're going to get our ride plate. We're going to get that situated and get it bolted up. Alright guys, so here you have it. Jet pump is in. Ride plate is on. What we're going to do up here is we're going to go ahead and throw this into reverse. And what that's going to do is move our reverse cable back here to our bucket. And it's going to allow us, this is spring loaded here, so it's going to allow us to push this back, slide it into the ball like this, and then line it up. So now you'll see our reverse bucket is hooked up. When we're in reverse, that's how it's going to look. When we go back into forward, you'll see that the bucket is now completely up, and everything is good with the world with the jet pump. So this thing is already starting to look more and more like a jet ski. So now we're going to go ahead and see what we can't figure out here with this exhaust. You'll see there I did finally get the cap for that port on the cylinder block. So that is capped off. The other one is capped off. And we have our coupler on here. I think I'm going to take that off because this has to go on a special way. So what I'm going to do is slide the coupler all the way forward onto the exhaust. I'm going to try to do that and then see if we can't get this thing to slide in. Now on this exhaust there are two little, they're basically piston rings that you have to put on here. And if you read the service manual, they tell you to put a thin layer of paper tape, which is basically painter's tape, masking tape, which is what this is. So what we're going to do is basically what you see. We did that, and that's going to keep these rings in place and allow us to slide them into the water box. So what we did here was slide our exhaust clamp all the way forward on this exhaust here. And that's going to allow us to line those piston rings up in this hole, because this is where they seal, is in that hole. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to drop the intake in, or the exhaust in, slide it forward as far as we can, and that should give us the clearance that we need to go ahead and slide this in. I am just going to very lightly lubricate the inside of this to allow that painter's tape to slide in a little bit better, but it should slide right in because it came out the same way. It came out super easy, so wish me luck. Alright guys, so I am actually waiting on some copper gasket spray that I'm going to be spraying on my exhaust manifold gasket. So I did just want to show you that I did get the exhaust manifold into basically where it lives. We did have to move the water box back a little bit to get everything to line up, but we did slide that in there to make sure that it fits, and it does. So tomorrow I should have that spray on, you know, that gasket spray, and we are going to go ahead and spray it on our gasket and then install the gasket, install the exhaust manifold, and then we're going to tighten all that hardware to 18 foot-pounds. One thing we did go ahead and do is replace this broken fuel injector connector here. You'll see it was cracked, and it was just a really poor repair by the previous owner or previous shop, I'm not sure. But I actually had a spare harness for one of these engines. So what I did is I found the same connector for the number 4 fuel injector with the same wires and everything, and we just went ahead and used some heat shrink butt connectors and connected them. It's super important to use watertight connectors and watertight repairs when you are working on a jet ski because of the nature of where these things are used in the water. So these will be, you know, this is an approved repair. This is watertight. This is not going to corrode, so we can go ahead, plug that number 4 fuel injector in, and then tomorrow, once I have that spray, we can go ahead, install our exhaust manifold, connect our hoses to it, and we can go ahead, obviously, reconnect our spark plug wires, and realistically, this thing's ready to run. There's no other reason why it shouldn't, other than the battery, which I have over here on the battery tender. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so I talked to the guys over at Cowie Performance, and they let me know that as long as my mating surface here is nice and clean, I should not need any type of gasket sealant or anything like that over the gasket. So we're going to go ahead and install our exhaust manifold gasket. Now if we look at the gasket over here, there is a raised edge. The raised edge needs to fit inward towards the engine. So that's the way we're going to install it. And then we're going to torque down all of our exhaust manifold hardware to 18 foot-pounds. Alright guys, so I just want to show you where we are at here. We have our exhaust manifold in. It is connected to the water box. We have our rubber clamp on there, and we have all of our hoses hooked up. This guy right here goes up front and around and up. That goes to our flush port. This plug here, or this hose here, goes to the telltale on the side. You have the hose down here, goes to the oil cooler. You have this hose here, connects down here, comes off the power takeoff. And then the other hoses that we connected, we had mentioned earlier in the video when we put our water box and everything in and the engine in. So you'll see this one here goes up behind the cylinder block, behind the exhaust manifold. You have the other one here. That goes, power just went out. That's awesome. That goes behind the intake manifold. So we are all set here. Alright guys, so I'd like to celebrate a small victory today. This engine is completely in. You'll see, like I showed you, we have our exhaust manifold in. We went ahead and installed our air box. We went ahead and installed our catch can basically. We reconnected our spark plug wires. And everything under here, from here back, is done. So we are going to end this video here. In our next video on this, we are going to go through the fuel system. We're going to pull the fuel sender. We're going to inspect it. We're going to make sure our pump is working. And if there is any gunk or crud in that fuel tank, we are going to clean it out, because we do not want to send dirty, bad, contaminated fuel through a freshly redone engine. It's just not a good idea. So if this video helped you, or if it was interesting to you, please like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more content on this jet ski, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks we see it blowing some smoke out the tailpipe. See you later.